Lightning slashed the Wyoming sky, thunder roaring like a cannon across the plains. Rain fell in sheets, churning the red clay road into a river of mud. Martha stood on her weathered porch, a wool shawl pulled tight against the chill, her eyes scanning the storm's fury. A shadow emerged from the downpour, a man, tall and lean, his hat brim low, cradling a small figure in his arms. Was he a lost soul seeking refuge, or a harbinger of chaos walking straight to her door? Before we dive into this tale, I'm Thomas, your storyteller, spinning yarns of heart and grit. Drop a comment, where are you tuning in from? If this story lights a spark, hit subscribe, because tomorrow's tale will steal your breath. Martha lived on the edge of Red Hollow, Wyoming, 1878, in a gray timberbird cabin tucked beneath whispering cottonwoods. At 34, her chestnut hair, now threaded with silver, hung in a loose braid swaying in the wind. A faint scar curved along her jaw, not from fire but a desperate fall years ago, when she'd ridden through a blizzard to save her sister, who slipped. Away before dawn, the town rarely spoke of it. They rarely spoke of Martha at all. Her husband, Samuel, a soft-spoken blacksmith, had died 4 years prior, thrown from a horse during a cattle drive. Left with a sagging cabin and a heart heavy with loss, she became a ghost to Red Hollow's townsfolk. Her presence met with curt nods or averted eyes. She kept to herself, tending a modest garden, carrots, beans, and a cluster of roses that bloomed defiantly each spring. Her hands, calloused but nimble, wove baskets sold at the weekly market, though few met her gaze when they bought them. Sunday services had lost their pull after the preacher's wife whispered that Martha's solitude was unnatural. Now, her church was the quiet of dawn, her prayers the rustle of leaves. Yet loneliness was a familiar shadow, one she'd learned to walk beside. Tonight, the storm raged fiercer than any in memory, wind howling like a pack of wolves, rattling the cabin's loose shutters. Martha lit a single oil lamp, its golden glow casting shadows across the plank walls where a faded daguerreotype of Samuel hung, his smile frozen in time. She was about to bolt the door when she saw the man again, closer now, stumbling through the mud. His boots sank with each step, his duster coat soaked black. In his arms, a child, a girl, no older than 7, lay limp, wrapped in a tattered blanket. Dark curls clung to her pale face, a bruise blooming beneath one eye. Martha's heart thudded. Strangers were rare this far out, and trust was a luxury she couldn't spare. But the girl's shallow breaths tugged at something deep within her. A memory of loss she couldn't shake. She stepped into the rain, the cold stinging her cheeks. "Who's there?" she called, her voice cutting through the storm. The man raised his head. A flash of lightning revealed a face weathered but not. Cruel high cheekbones, a stubbled jaw, and eyes that held a quiet storm of their own. He was perhaps 40, though hardship blurred the years. "Name's Ellis," he said, his voice low, rough like gravel under boots. "Found this girl half drowned in the ditch. She needs shelter. I am bringing trouble." Martha's grip tightened on her shawl. The girl stirred, her lips blue from cold. Red Hollow wasn't a crossroads. Strays didn't wander here, especially not children. Yet the man's posture, protective, not predatory, eased her suspicion, if only a fraction. "Bring her inside," she said, stepping back. Ellis crossed the threshold, water dripping onto the floorboards. Martha gestured to a cot by the hearth, where a small fire crackled. "Lay her there." He set the girl down gently, like she was fragile as porcelain. Martha knelt, brushing wet hair from the child's face, her fingers grazing the bruise. She fetched a quilt her mother's patched, but warm end draped it over the girl, whose chest rose steadier now. Ellis stood by the door, hands in his pockets, watching the rain lash the windows. "You gotta stand there all night?" Martha asked, her tone sharper than intended. He shrugged, water dripping from his hat. "Didn't reckon you'd wanna." Stranger lingering, she studied him. His coat was patched, boots worn thin, but he carried no scent of whiskey or deceit. A leather cord hung around his neck, a small pendant, perhaps a cross or a charm tucked beneath his shirt. "Coffee's on the stove," she said. "Warm up, tell me who she is." Ellis poured a tin mug, his movements slow, deliberate. Don't know her name, he said, leaning against the wall. Was ridden through from Cheyenne when I saw her in the ditch, half buried in mud. No kin, no tracks. Just her and this storm. Martha's eyes narrowed. Cheyenne was days away and Red Hollow sat off the main trails. His story felt thin, but his hands stayed open, no threat in his stance. She turned to the girl, boiling water for chamomile tea, the scent of herbs filling the air. The child stirred again, her brown eyes opening wide, flickering with fear. She saw Martha and flinched, then saw Ellis and froze. "It's all right, darling," Martha said, kneeling. "I'm Martha. You're safe here." The girl nodded. Faintly, clutching the quilt. Martha glanced at Ellis. "She's scared. You know more than you're saying?" He shook his head. "Only that she's alive because you opened that door." Her throat tightened. The cabin felt smaller with him in it, yet warmer, like a space unused to company had woken up. As she coaxed the girl to sip tea, Ellis stayed by the fire, his silhouette softening in the glow. For the first time in years, Martha didn't feel the weight of silence pressing down, but as the storm roared on, a cry sliced through the rain, not thunder, not wind, but something human, raw and desperate, echoing from the dark. Martha's hand froze on the kettle. Ellis's eyes snapped. To the door, his fingers brushing his coat. Who or what was out there, hunting through the night? The cry melted into the storm's fury, leaving Martha's heart hammering. She clutched the kettle, eyes fixed on the door where Ellis stood, his hand grazing the revolver's outline beneath his coat. The cabin's silence pressed heavier than the rain outside. "Stay put," Ellis whispered, slipping into the dark. "Before we unravel this mystery, drop a comment. Has this tale got you on edge? Your thoughts keep these stories burning bright. If it's tugging your heartstrings, hit subscribe for more tales of courage and connection." Dawn crept over Red Hollow, gray and damp, the storm now a soft drizzle. Martha hadn't slept, the echo of that cry human, desperate, lost lingering. In her mind, Clara, the girl, slept on the cot, her small face softened by the hearth's glow, the bruise under her eye fading. Martha adjusted the quilt, her fingers brushing Clara's cheek, a silent vow to shield this child, whoever she was. Ellis returned just before sunrise, soaked, his boots leaving muddy prints. He said he'd found no tracks, only wind and mud, but his jaw was tight, holding back something unspoken. "You heard it," Martha said, stirring oats over the fire, her voice low but probing. "I did," Ellis replied, settling at the table. He sharpened a knife with slow, deliberate strokes, a carved star pendant at his neck catching the light knot across, she noted, but something older, personal. Checked the road, nothing out there. "Maybe a fox, maybe someone lost." Martha's eyes narrowed. "Red Hollow ain't a place for lost souls," she said. Pouring hot water into a tin mug. He set the knife down, meeting her gaze. "Fair point, but whoever it was, they're gone now?" She didn't believe him fully. His eyes, deep and guarded, held secrets like clouds holding rain. Before she could press, Clara stirred, her brown eyes opening wide, clutching the quilt like a lifeline. "Where's my ma?" she whispered, voice fragile as a sparrow's wing. Martha's chest tightened. She glanced at Ellis, who shook his head. "No answers." "We'll find out, darling," she said, kneeling beside the cot. "What's your name?" "Clara May," the girl murmured, sipping water from a cup Martha offered. "That's a beautiful name," Martha said, her smile soft but heavy with worry. Clara's eyes softened and she lay back, exhaustion pulling her under again. Ellis stood, pulling on his damp coat. "I'll scout the road again," he said, voice steady. "See if anyone's looking for her." "Be careful," Martha replied, the words slipping out softer than she meant. He tipped his hat, a faint smile, warming his rugged face, and stepped into the mist, alone with Clara. Martha swept the floor, her broom's rhythm calming her nerves. Clara watched, tracing the quilt's stitches. "You live here all alone?" she asked, voice curious. "Most days," Martha said, pausing. "This cabin's been through worse storms than last night." "So have I." Clara giggled, a bright sound that lit the room like a candle. It stirred memories of Samuel's deep laugh, long gone, and Martha's heart ached, softened by the child's warmth. She handed Clara a biscuit, watching her nibble it by the fire. By noon, Ellis returned, mud caking his boots. "Found this," he said, holding out a torn scrap of blue cotton. "Fine like a Sunday dress, snagged on a thorn bush near the ditch where Clara was found." Martha took it, fingers tracing the fabric. "Her mother's?" she asked, tucking it into her apron. "Maybe," Ellis said. "Or someone else's. Clara's not safe till we know." "She stays here," Martha said firmly, her voice unwavering, "till we find her kin." Ellis's gaze held hers, something unspoken passing between them, respect, trust, or the spark of something deeper. "Agreed," he said. "I'll stick around if you'll have me." Her pulse quickened. A stranger in her world was a risk, but his presence felt like a shield, steady and warm. "Shed out back," she said. "Fix it up, it's yours." He nodded, no argument, just a quiet acceptance. As he headed to the shed, his broad shoulders cutting through the drizzle, Martha felt the cabin breathe easier, less lonely, but as she hung laundry on the line, a shadow flickered at the edge of the cottonwoods. Not Ellis, not Clara, a figure, cloaked in mist, watched her land. Martha's hand tightened on the clothesline, her breath catching. Was Clara's past closing in, or was a darker threat lurking just out of sight? The shadow in the cottonwoods vanished, leaving Martha's pulse racing. She dropped the laundry, scanning the mist, but only silence answered. Clara's laughter floated from the cabin, pulling her back. She hurried inside, bolting the door. Before we dive deeper into this web of secrets, I'm Thomas, your storyteller. Drop a comment. Is this tale keeping you guessing? If it's got your heart, hit subscribe for more stories of grit and grace. Dusk settled over Red Hollow, damp and chilly. Martha sat by the hearth, mending Clara's dress, her mind on the blue cotton scrap and her apron a clue to Clara's past, or a warning. Clara stacked kindling nearby, her giggles softening the cabin's edges. Ellis hammered boards on the shed out back, his steady strikes like a heartbeat. Martha glanced at the window, half expecting that shadow, but only. Twilight stared back. "Is Mr. Ellis your husband?" Clara asked, tilting her head. Martha's needle paused, a flush warming her cheeks. "No, darling, just helping out." Clara nodded, returning to her kindling. Martha's thoughts lingered on Ellis's quiet strength, the way his gaze saw her, not her scar. Hope felt dangerous, but it flickered anyway. Ellis stepped inside, wiping sweat from his brow. His star pendant glinted. "Shed solid," he said. "Found this." He set a rusted locket on the table, its clasp broken, a child's muddy shoe beside it. Martha opened the locket. A faded sketch showed a woman with Clara's curls. "Clara," she called softly. "Yours?" Clara ran over, clutching it. "Ma's," she whispered, eyes wet. Martha held her close, stroking her hair. "Near the ditch," Ellis said, answering her unspoken question. "Someone was out there, Martha, not just passing through." Her stomach nodded. The shadow, the cry Clara's past, was closing in. "We need answers," she said firmly. "I'll ride to town tomorrow," Ellis said. "Ask around, quiet like." "Town don't like questions," Martha warned. Whispers had already spread. "About the drifter at her place." "Let 'em whisper," Ellis said, eyes defiant. "I've faced worse." His words carried weight, hinting at battles untold. Clara yawned, and Martha tucked her in, whispering, "Sleep tight, darling." Ellis lingered, his gaze soft. "You're good with her," he said. "I've had practice," Martha murmured, thinking of her sister's child, lost to fever. His eyes held warmth, not pity, stirring something in her chest. He tipped his hat, stepping out to the shed. Martha bolted the door, his presence lingering like a shield. Morning brought trouble. Hooves kicked up dust as two men, Jed Harper and Tom Reese, Red Hollow's hard-eyed ranchers, stopped at her gate. "Heard you got a drifter and a kid?" Jed sneered. "What you hidin', Widow Walker?" "My land, my business," Martha said, chin high, scar catching the light. Ellis emerged, hand near his revolver. "Ride on, gentlemen," he said. Voice calm but sharp. Tom spat. "Sheriff's curious." "We'll be back." They rode off, leaving a thread in the dust. Martha gripped the porch rail, hands trembling. Ellis stepped closer. "They'll stir trouble," she said. "I ain't leaving you to face it alone," he replied, his gaze fierce, protective. Her heart skipped but as Clara called from inside, a faint rumble echoed through the hill's hooves, growing louder. Was it the town's judgment or Clara's past breaking through? The hoofbeats grew louder, a steady drum roll echoing through the hills. Martha stood frozen on the porch, her hands gripping the rail, the dust from Jed and Tom's departure still settling. Ellis stepped beside her, his eyes scanning the horizon, hand resting near his revolver. Clara's voice called softly from the cabin, but Martha's focus was on the road where 3 riders emerged from the mist. Not the sheriff, not yet, but something about their silhouettes chilled her blood. Before we face what's coming, I'm Thomas, your storyteller. Drop a comment. What's got your heart racing in this tale? If it's holding you tight, hit subscribe for more stories that light up the soul. The riders stopped short of the gate, their horses snorting in the cool morning air. The leader, a wiry man with a gray mustache and a marshal's badge glinting on his vest, dismounted. His eyes, sharp as a hawk's, locked onto Martha. "Mornin', Mrs. Walker," he said, voice smooth but cold. "Name's Marshal Wade, Hurd. You're harboring a child and a drifter. Care to explain?" Martha's scar itched under his gaze, but she lifted her chin. "Clara's safe with me. Ellis is helping out. That's all you need to know." Wade's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "Town's mighty curious. Kids don't wander out here alone." "And your friend?" He glanced at Ellis. "He's got a look I've seen before." "Trouble follows men like him." Ellis stayed calm, his voice low. "No trouble here, Marshal. Just a man keeping a roof over a child's head." Wade's eyes narrowed, but he didn't push. Instead, he pulled a folded paper from his coda. Sketch of a woman with dark curls, Clara's eyes staring from the page. "This her kin?" he asked, holding it out. Martha's breath caught. "The woman from Clara's locket." "Where'd you get that?" she demanded, stepping forward. "Posted in Cheyenne," Wade said. "Woman named Lila May, wanted for theft. Left a girl behind, they say." "Sound familiar?" Clara's mother alive. But a fugitive? Martha's mind reeled, the blue cotton scrap in her apron suddenly heavier. She glanced at Ellis, whose jaw tightened, his star pendant catching the light. "Clara's got no part in that," Martha said firmly. "She stays with me," Wade shrugged. "For now. But if Leela's near, she come for her girl, and I'll be watching." He tipped his hat, remounted, and rode off with his men. Their hoofbeats fading into the hills. Martha sagged against the rail, her hands trembling. Ellis touched her shoulder, his fingers warm through her shawl. "You all right?" he asked, voice soft. "No," she admitted, meeting his gaze. "But I ain't letting Clara go to a woman on the run. Or to that marshal." Ellis nodded, his eyes fierce with understanding. "We'll keep her safe. Whatever it takes." The words wrapped around her like a blanket, stirring something deeper, a trust she hadn't felt since Samuel's smile lit her world. She wanted to lean into it, but fear held her back. "Why stay?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "This ain't your fight." Ellis's gaze softened, his scarred hand brushing his pendant. "Lost someone once," he said. "A sister running from a bad man. Couldn't save her. Ain't walking away from you or Clara." Her throat tightened, his confession cracking her walls. She nodded, unable to speak, and turned to the cabin, where Clara stood in the doorway, clutching her locket. "Is Ma coming?" she asked. Eyes wide, Martha knelt, pulling her close. "We'll figure it out, darling. You're home here." Clara's small arms wrapped around her, and Martha felt a strength she'd forgotten. Rooted in love, not loss, that afternoon they worked. Together, Martha tending her roses, Clara scattering seeds, Ellis reinforcing the gate. The air felt charged, like a storm brewing, but their shared silence was warm, not heavy. Martha caught Ellis watching her, his gaze lingering longer than before. And her cheeks warmed, despite the chill. By evening, Martha cooked stew, the scent of sage filling the cabin. Clara chattered about her kindling towers, and Ellis carved a small wooden horse for her, his knife deft. "For you," he said, handing it to Clara, who beamed. Martha's heart swelled, the cabin alive with something new family. Fragile but real, but as they ate, a sharp crack split, the quiet not thunder, but wood splintering. Martha froze, spoon in hand. Ellis was up in an instant, revolver drawn. Peering through the window. "Stay here," he whispered, slipping outside. Martha pulled Clara close, her pulse racing. Through the glass, she saw a flicker in the cottonwoods, a lantern's glow, swinging low. Someone was out there and they weren't hiding anymore? Was it Leila May, or had Wade's promise to watch turned into something darker? The lantern's glow swayed in the cottonwoods, a silent threat cutting through the night. Martha held Clara tight, her heart pounding as Ellis slipped outside, revolver in hand. The splintered wood's echo lingered, a warning that read hollows. Shadows or Clara's past had found them. Before we unveil this tale's end, I'm Thomas, your storyteller, weaving stories of heart and hope. Drop a comment what's moved you most in this journey. If it's warmed your soul, hit subscribe and join our family for more tales that light the way. Ellis returned moments later, his face grim but calm. "No one's there," he said, bolting the door. "Gate smashed, though. Someone wanted us to know they're close." He set his revolver on the table, within reach, and met Martha's eyes. "We're safe for now, but we need to be ready." Martha nodded, her grip on Clara loosening. The girl's eyes were wide, clutching her locket. "Is it Ma?" she whispered. Martha knelt, brushing Clara's curls. "I don't know, darling. But you're safe with us." Clara buried her face in Martha's shoulder, and Martha's resolve hardened. No marshal, no fugitive, would take this child from her. Dawn broke clear, the hills quiet but heavy with tension. Martha and Ellis worked fast, boarding the windows, reinforcing the door. Clara stayed close, clutching her wooden horse, her chatter replaced by watchful silence. Martha's roses swayed in the breeze, their beauty a stark contrast to the fear coiling in her chest. Ellis caught her gaze as he hammered a plank, his star pendant glinting. "We'll get through this," he said softly, his voice a lifeline. Mid-morning, a single rider appeared, not Wade, but a woman, her dark curls spilling from a worn bonnet, her face gaunt but fierce. She stopped at the gate, hands raised. "I'm Leila May," she called, voice cracking. "Clara's Ma. I ain't here to hurt nobody." Martha stepped onto the porch, Ellis at her side, revolver lowered but ready. Clara peeked from the doorway. Gasping, "Ma?" she cried, but Martha held her back, eyes locked on Leila. "Prove it," Martha said, voice steady. "Why'd you leave her?" Leila's shoulders sagged. "I didn't. Took a job in Cheyenne, cleaning for a banker. He framed me for stealing when I wouldn't bend to him. I ran, left Clara with a neighbor, but she got scared, wandered off. Been searching ever since?" She pulled a ribbon from her pocket blue, matching Clara's locket. "This was hers, please." Clara tugged at Martha's skirt. "It's true," she whispered. "Ma tied it in my hair." Martha's heart twisted. She glanced at Ellis, who nodded, his eyes soft but wary. "Let her come," he said, but slow. Leila dismounted, approaching with open hands. Clara broke free, running to her mother. Leila dropped to her knees, sobbing as she held her daughter, their curls mingling. Martha's eyes stung, but suspicion lingered. "Why the broken gate?" she asked. "Wasn't me," Leila said, looking up. "Wade's men been tracking me. They want the reward. Don't care who gets hurt." Ellis cursed under his breath. "Wade's playing dirty," he said. "We need to move." But before they could plan, hoofbeats thundered. Wade and 4 riders, dust rising like a storm. "Leila May!" Wade barked, reining up. "You're coming with me, the girl too." Martha stepped forward, scar catching the sun. "Clara stays," she said, voice like steel. "Lila's no thief." "You got no claim here," Wade sneered. "You're harboring a fugitive, Widow Walker. And your drifters know Saint deserted a posse in Cheyenne, left men to die." Ellis stiffened, but his voice was calm. "Those men were rustlers, killing for sport. I walked away. Ain't running now." Wade's hand hovered near his gun, but Leila stepped between them, Clara behind her. "Take me," she said. "Leave my girl." Clara sobbed, clinging to Leila. Martha's heart broke, but she saw the truth in Layla's eyes, love, not guilt. No, Martha said, turning to Wade. You want Lila? Prove her crime. I'll ride to Cheyenne myself, find that banker. Wade's men shifted, uneasy. Ellis stepped beside Martha, his presence a wall. You heard the lady, he said. Ride on, or this gets ugly. The air crackled, hands twitching toward holsters. Then Wade laughed, cold and sharp. You're digging your own grave, Walker. He turned his horse, his men following, but his parting glance promised trouble. Layla sank to her knees, holding Clara. Thank you, she whispered to Martha. I don't deserve this. Hear her, Ma, Martha said softly. That's enough. That evening, the cabin glowed with firelight. Leila and Clara slept on the cot, curled together. Martha sat by the hearth, Ellis across from her, mending a harness. You didn't have to stand with me, she said, voice low. Ellis looked up, his eyes warm. Wanted to. You're stronger than you know, Martha. Always were. Her cheeks flushed, and she reached for his hand, their fingers brushing. Stay, she said, heart racing. After this, he smiled, squeezing her hand. Ain't going nowhere. Weeks later, Martha and Ellis rode to Cheyenne. Lila's name cleared when the banker confessed under pressure. Clara and Lila stayed with Martha, the cabin now a home. Red Hollow's whispers faded, replaced by nods of respect. Martha's roses bloomed brighter, a symbol of resilience like the women who tended them. History teaches us that courage isn't loud, it's the quiet stand against fear, the choice to love despite loss. If this tale moved you, hit that like button and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Tell us below, what's a moment you found your own strength?